103.1 FM, reaching our nation for God. Hope 103.1 FM. Why listen to anything else?
Chosen generation, we've been called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God has given me, and I know who I am. We are a chosen generation.
Blessed afternoon
for to show His excellence.
To all listeners of Hope 103.1 FM.
God has given me, I know.
It's Wednesday the 9th of March, 2022.
He says I am, where He says I'm at. I know who I am, I know who God says I am.
Yes, this is the voice of Precious Lady Abby.
He says I'm at.
And we are here
who I am. I'm working in power.
For another informative session of Leadership Plus. And we have the director of GITE. We have a leadership coach, and Reverend John Lewis. We thank you for taking your time to join us. We welcome you to sit back and enjoy another hour. We discuss pertinent matters as it relates to leadership. I pray you've been having a good day so far. Yeah.
We've been called for to show His excellence. All I require for life, God.
Blessed afternoon to you.
I know who.
Blessed afternoon to you, Reverend John. How are you today?
Great. As the song said before, it's a beautiful day. And so it's good to be back with you again this week. And we trust that you had a great week and look forward for this time together. And our discussion today is focused on the leader as a coach, building an effective team. How to enlist and empower the right people for the task.
Right. And again, we welcome all listeners on all our platforms, those of you in Radio Land. Welcome those of you listening across the internet platforms, those of you listening on YouTube. Welcome again to another session of Leadership Plus. You know, Reverend, in preparing for today's session and reading, you know, I recognize, you know, it's important as individuals that we take time to find out who we are, you know, and pay attention to who we are mentally, emotionally, you know, every aspect of our life, and remember not to compare ourselves as we are, you know, uniquely faceted, and our unique qualities can be utilized in a team to fulfill objectives, kingdom objectives. And, you know, looking at today's scripture, it provokes some deep thoughts again. And the scripture is from Genesis 11:6. It says, and the Lord said, so this is the Lord making an observation here. And the Lord said, behold, they are one people, and they all have the same language. And now nothing which they purpose to do shall be impossible for them. And that tells me quite a lot, that there is so much power in unity. And the Lord said it there. Now that they have one language, nothing is impossible for them. You know, today, as you mentioned, we're talking about the leader as a coach and building, you know, a unified team. We're looking at that today, more focusing on building the right team. And could you tell us, can we start off today by looking at the 17 indisputable laws, you know, of teamwork?
Great. So as a leader, we face the challenge of finding the right people for your team. So there are some laws. And the first law that we look at is the law of significance. And that has to do with the numbers, the strength. One is too small in number to achieve God's purposes. So just from the start on is the fact that the earth, the world, and mankind were created by a team, the
Mm-hmm.
Trinity, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, worked as a team to accomplish the act of creation, but also the act of redemption.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the starting premise of really a strong team, um, and so they're models for us to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So this law of significance reminds us that no one person can accomplish anything great by himself or herself.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take a number of people around a leader in order to accomplish God's purposes. And we discuss this further into our discussion for today. The second law is the law of the big picture.
Right.
That is, the goal is more important than the role. It suggests to us that we must bring all the pieces together, have a sense of this wider spectrum of what we want to achieve in order to understand the total vision of what we want to accomplish. And then the third law, the law of the niche. All team members have a place where they add the most value. Adding value to people, it is so critical. And we talked about this in other discussions about understanding the value of the human capital in each person that brings significance and importance to a team. And then the law of the compass. Vision gives team members direction and confidence. So just as a compass is used in our aircrafts and in our ships and in other places to guide us in a destination, to take us um, in the right place that we want to arrive at, we need also in a team to have a compass to direct us and to lead us. So we are going north, and we do not intend to go south or east, and we are not going west. The law of the bad apple. Rotten attitudes can ruin a good team. So we have to watch out, as you know, if you have a basket of apples and one is spoiled, it will infect the rest of the basket of good apples. So we understand how that can affect team attitude and team membership. And then the law of communication. Interaction fuels action. So it has to be where we constantly deliberating, having time to think, having time to interact, to get feedback, to brainstorm. And then the law of the chain. The strength of the team is impacted by its weakest link. So we have to always um, renew and strengthen the weak chinks in the lane in the link, as it were, in order to maintain effectiveness within a team. So the law of significance, the big picture, the niche, the compass, the bad apple, communication, the law of the chain. So those are the seven primary principles in understanding how we build an effective team.
Right. And we cannot afford to ignore one or two out of them because ultimately there will be some sort of imbalance and something that the team may not function as well as it ought to. Right? So,
Absolutely. Mhm.
yes. So
Absolutely.
we look further into the scripture that was read a little earlier on,
Mhm.
and it spoke about God speaking about the people who are building the Tower of Babel. And God had made an observation that they are one. And outside of Him, they're doing their thing. And what can stop them? Nothing shall be impossible. Could you elaborate on what we can learn from that verse as it relates to teamwork?
Great. So there are several principles in this passage, Genesis 11, verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, firstly, we understand that they share a common identity.
Right.
Behold, they are one people. A common identity um, can experience by shared values. So, in any team that has to be effective, there has to be an understanding of the identity. Every particular group or team has a particular identity. And so we need to establish what identifies us as a team as separate and different to other teams that are around us. They share a common language. They all have the same language. A common language means we communicate well, means that we are on the same page. We understand the mission, the vision, we understand the purpose of this team. And so when we express ourselves and talking and communicating about our team, it is clearly understood by every member of the team. And then they share the common goal. Nothing shall be impossible for them. A common goal means we have shared vision and purpose. So the common goal was to um, build this tower, and because these three characteristics were ingrained in their team effort: common identity, common language, in terms of understanding how we communicate the vision of our organization, and then, of course, a common goal. Where do we want to go? One of the important issue here is that every member on the team needs to understand what is the goal we are seeking to achieve. Otherwise, we may find out that we are going in different directions and we are not anticipating and going in the direction of the goal. As a matter of fact, these goals needs to be written down.
Mm-hmm.
These goals need to be established from the start of our team so that everyone is very clear on which direction we want to go. So common goal, common language, and common identity are critical values that every team must adhere to.
Right. And so the leader has to be a coach, to find these right people. I know that there are often scouts who go out looking for talent, be it to sing or sports. There's a coach that goes out and look to recruit the team or the
Yes,
person that has the appropriate skill that can bring them a win or a trophy, and we see how these people go all out. I mean, the whole world rather, just celebrated, what's it, football, they call it football, and they have a big show and they give so much into these sporting activities and they recruit the best. And
yes.
likewise, we have to do so. Could you talk to us a little bit about recruiting and enlisting team members?
Great. So as you mentioned, the first step in team building is finding the right people. In fact, the most important part of any organization is how they staff and put their team together.
Mhm.
And the indication, an example was that of great athletic coaches who go and scout out people from all over the country or island. And so it is well put together in terms of the kind of persons that you need to build this particular team
Mhm.
and the goals that you want to achieve with this particular team. Small organization, sometimes such as churches, often make the mistake of thinking they can get by with inferior team members because they're small. The opposite is true. If one is inferior, the loss is only 1%. But if a church has a leadership team of two and one is inferior, the loss is 50%.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, you see how
Yeah,
damaging that could be in
that
terms of
caused me
the
to
team.
pause a little while when I read it.
Yes, 50% of your team is on the wrong side.
Yes.
It's not going to be a winning team, it's going to be a failing team, and they
Mhm.
cannot score for the team. So we have to be wise in the selection of the team members that you're putting together, and that takes time.
Mhm.
We cannot arbitrarily just invite anyone and everyone on your team, and of course, depending on the vision that you want to accomplish. It would be people, of course, that when choosing team members, and let's talk about when choosing team members.
Mhm.
Look for people with the following qualities. And the word that describes this best is the word gifts, Gifts.
Mhm.
So these persons, they are gifted. They have abilities in the area where you have needs. So you have done an assessment of the gifts of these persons that you're bringing together. And so they are not just placed on a team because they would like to be on the team, but rather there's a particular gift that is needed in this team that you're seeking to build.
Right.
So they must come with the gifts that are required to function effectively on this team. Um, Influential, they are leaders who have sufficient influence in their circles already. These are not new people in that sense that they are not new to the sphere of influence.
Right.
These are proven people with um, skills and gifts that they bring together that would enable the organization or movement to function. They already have a sense of influence in their sphere of work. They're also fruitful people, GIF. They get results and do what it takes to get the job done.
Mhm.
So that is going to be very important when you evaluate, when you're scouting, when you're doing assessment of a potential team member. You have to look at the history. You have to determine whether this person has been fruitful
Mhm.
in the past. If this a person has a record that shows competencies and productivity in their life, that's a plus for the team. And then the T is trustworthy. They have integrity. It's difficult to train for character. So these are not babes, as it were, you're bringing onto your team. These are men and women who have displayed a life of trustworthiness
Mhm.
and accountability and integrity in the past. And then the S, serving. They are generous. They have a generous servant's heart. So we have talked about the whole idea of servant leadership. The word gifts, gifted, influential, fruitful, trustworthy, and serving. So when you're choosing team members, you're looking for these character traits that is shown in the lives of your team members.
Right. I smile because, I think about Jesus, choosing his disciples and being fully aware of all of these things. He would have um, specially chosen each one of them because of their gifting. They all had jobs, they all had callings, they were responsible people and so forth. And he called them to be his disciples so that he can train. And he had a big objective, and we're feeling the impact of, his teaching, the people he chose, and many of us can identify with either one or of the disciples. And we thank God for his wisdom, yes?
Absolutely, and of course, the biblical example is Christ Himself.
Mm-hmm.
He prayed all night before He chose His team, and that is going to be so important, especially if you're looking at spiritual leadership. He turned out men that were faithful and available. So there are some expectations you might communicate to each person you add to the team. One is the attitude.
Mm-hmm.
You expect them to keep a positive attitude on the job. The growth, you expect them to continue growing as a person and as a leader. So there's always the determination for self-development and self-improvement.
Mm-hmm.
And you expect them to work with others as a team. So there is no lone ranger on
Yeah.
this team. There is no, it is a the team is not made with individuals who think of themselves, but think of the team as a whole. The goal of the team is more important
Yeah.
than the goals of the individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And mentoring, you expect them to be developing other leaders. So these are the expectations that you identify um, to your team members as they join your team. You expect that they demonstrate these characteristics in their lives. positive attitude. They are growing in their own personal life.
Mhm.
They have a sense of teamwork. As we discussed, teamwork makes the dream work, and then the mentoring to develop others. So they themselves are in a personal growth um, span, but they're also seeking to develop other members of the team as well.
Yeah, personal growth is such an integral part of team building. The further you grow as a person, you impact your team. I think we mentioned that in another setting about
Mhm.
personal growth, and we have to. We've learned so far that we have to give and make a daily effort to grow, to learn something new, to build ourselves. And I came across this saying. I think I shared in another setting. He that does not read has no advantage over him who cannot read. So
Absolutely.
we have to make that effort to build,
Yes.
to grow, to read, and to continue being leadership, and as a leader, of course, God will give you a vision. And you
Yes.
can't just tell the people do as I do. Excuse
Hmm.
me. You have to be able to share or communicate. I think in our very initial sessions, we spoke about being able to communicate. That's one of the skills of a leader. Could you take us through the importance and how a leader can share his vision with team members?
Right. So there are several principles here that we'll discuss about how you can share your vision with team members. So you have to catch the vision by hearing a leader describe it verbally. Um, you will want to teach and preach about the vision. Um, so you have to communicate, as you mentioned, communicate very clearly. So unless you are communicating clearly, um, the team doesn't quite get what you want to accomplish with your team. So it must be written down, it must be understood by every member of the team. So there's no question about the function of the team, the goal of the team. So it takes time to craft your statements, to craft your intention of what you want to communicate. So this takes concentration and effort and time to communicate clearly about being word smart. And secondly, you want to be visually smart.
Mhm.
People must be able to paint pictures and remember images so that sometimes they are even more effective than even with the word itself. But when they see an image or a photograph, sometimes people are able to communicate an idea more effectively by a drama, by a play, because that is a very important way to communicate. And then it says logic smart. They catch the vision by receiving stats and figures and facts. So we must be accurate in the stats that we provide, in the facts that we provide, and that helps to build confidence in what you want to communicate as well. And then the interesting one here is music smart. They catch the vision sometimes by hearing a song on the theme of the vision. So you can write a song or you can adopt a song that captures the idea of the vision of the team that you're building. So music, of course, is so important and affects us all. And so we must use the field of music in order to communicate and to capture the vision of our organization. Then, of course, people smart. We catch the vision by the midst of small group interaction. So there's always discussion. There's always comment, feedback, and interaction with your
Mhm.
team, so that we are learning new ideas. And so we come up with a new concept and we share it with the team members, and people give you feedback, and we seek to expand the idea, and that's how we have new initiatives and new ideas, so that the team continues to grow. They expand in their and the realities of what they want to accomplish, and that takes interaction with members. And then Self-smart, they catch the vision through personal thinking and reflecting time. That's what we talked about their own personal reflection, personal thinking time.
Yeah.
As we discuss, how much time do you spend each day to think? And that means a quiet moment um, to think, to reflect, um, to meditate upon um, what is going to be critical for you. And then body smart, they catch the vision kinestically, that is through the experiences and movement, body movements, they touch the senses, um, that is so important. So those are ways that you can share your vision, being word smart, visually smart, logic smart,
Mm.
music smart, people smart, self smart, and body smart. And so
That's
those are 7 points that
mm-hmm.
we can help us communicate the vision with the team members.
Mm-hmm. In the business world, they utilize these principles very well. They do their research, they know what colors bring what moods. And I mean, I'm
Hmm.
sure we could remember jingles from when we were
Hmm.
children. They would have put these songs and these advertisements together, and we can remember those long ago adverts that we would have seen, and they would have been over and over putting it on, and we could sing it if we hear it word for word. It's gotten into our mind, and they've done an excellent job in advertising their products. Likewise, these are things that we have to, as leaders, be conscious of. We want to, effectively, share the vision that God will have given, or the vision for your company, to get your team on it. And we have a biblical example of someone who will have utilized those principles. Could you share it with us?
Right. So we go back to the life of Nehemiah.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you remember him when he got this vision to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem,
Yeah.
and how he developed a team, and how this team was able to accomplish the goal in just 52 days.
It marveled me.
So we understand that they were together, they communicated the vision again and again. They continue to hear the vision even as they work. Um, and it was good to remind your people of the vision as recommended at least once per month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's a weakness in many organizations, that we perhaps have the vision that we mentioned a year ago and expect our team members, organization to remember it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it is good to be put them in remembrance every 26 days or once a month at least. Cast the vision, remind people of the vision,
Mm-hmm.
and that is so critical as we look at what God accomplishes through a God-given vision as well. So the question is, what vision has God given you that you have not um, utilized? What vision has God placed upon your heart today or over the past years that you're still sleeping on, as it were, and you have not utilized in your personal life or in the life of your organization?
Right.
And so it is going to be critical to return to those God-centered vision, and for your life as an individual, how God will propel you to accomplish a particular mission that no one else can accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
because God has given that vision to you and given you the abilities, the capabilities, the gifts, the skills to accomplish those visions.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to encourage our viewers and listeners to um, reflect and look at your life and see where you are today. And time goes by so quickly, and
Very.
uh, we add years to our life very quickly. And so we want to maximize the time given to us,
Yeah.
so that at the end of it, we can say, it's like Paul, I finished my race, I've kept the faith,
Mm-hmm.
and henceforth there's a reward. So it's a time for self-examination, a time for self-evaluation,
Mm-hmm.
as we look at these principles, because the purpose of this discussion is not just for information.
Yes.
The purpose is that it would transform us. It's a transformational leadership program
Mm-hmm.
that seeks to address you as an individual and how your life can be changed, how your life can be motivated, how your life can be different in accomplishing the particular purpose for which you were destined for. As we mentioned, God has given each person a particular gift and a particular skill and giftedness. And so we have to maximize the use of those gifts in terms of and how we use our gifts on the teams that God may place us
Mm-hmm.
and encourage and strengthen those teams because we all bring our strengths, our weaknesses to teams, but we want to emphasize the strengths that we can bring to the various teams that we are called to serve with.
Yeah, that's right. We really that I think that's why we need, as we mentioned earlier in earlier settings as well, and today, the importance of as we mentioned, growth, personal growth, and paying attention to to ourselves, where we are mentally, physically, pull it together, polish it, and have ourselves ready, so we can fulfill God's command, do fulfill kingdom objective. And as with most things, sometimes we come across some difficulties, and
Yes,
as we've done, you have to make the tough call.
yes,
That was the topic for one of our sessions,
discussions,
the
yes,
tough call. And in this setting again, a leader will have to do some tough things. Could you take
yes,
us through some of those tough things that the leader will have to do?
well, in every team, there comes a time when you may need to remove and replace team members.
Hmm.
This is one of the most difficult tasks for a Christian leader. No one enjoys telling someone else they are failing to do their job. Keep in mind, you may simply need to consider finding a better position for a failing team member. Maybe you simply have the right person in the wrong place.
Hmm.
However, from time to time, every leader makes a mistake and enlists the wrong person. They simply don't fit in on the team. So the options here, if a person is not functioning well in a particular area of your team, um, one of the ways is to consider is to make adjustments in another area of the team leadership that this person may better function.
Hmm.
Perhaps we have identified their gifts properly, and they're not they're failing in that particular area of work or ministry, but they're placed in the right sphere of work where they're gifted and they can improve and do and succeed. But in some cases, of course, we we may make mistake and enlist the wrong person. So here's some questions to ask before removing a team member. Has the project or the ministry outgrown the person or vice versa? Do they no longer fit the position because they've grown or because they can't keep up? So that calls for decision making and evaluation of the person. Who believes this team member needs to be replaced? So it's a team discussion. If you're the only one who thinks that person has failed, take caution. So you want to get confirmation from the other team members as well. What will be the basis of his or her dismissal? Areas where you have good grounds to dismiss a team member are one, failed character. So there's some character flaws, relational problems with others on the team, bad attitudes, or just incompetence. They do not have the skill that are necessary to function. And they may function elsewhere, but at some point they may need to be asked to consider other teams.
Hmm.
So how to remove a team member? So we do it personally. A personal encounter allows you to communicate your heart. It also communicates the importance. To simply write a letter is not good enough. So we pull this person in a private setting and you communicate to this person that he or she may need to be removed from the team. Do it gently without bitterness or malice.
Hmm.
So don't communicate any bitterness or malice. Gentleness doesn't require deception. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. So a soft answer turns away wrath. So you um, in this role as a leader has a difficult task, but you can do it gently without bitterness and malice and do it
Mm-hmm.
gracefully as well. And so the relationship is not totally strained or dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
I think I shared some experiences like that before.
Yes.
Um, end their responsibilities quickly. The longer a team member remains in the wrong position, the lower the productivity. So do not wait until we hit rock bottom, as we say. You would have noticed signs of behaviors, ill behaviors, or not functioning well, or not cooperating with other team members. So you must handle it very quickly. Do not allow it to get out of hand. Be consistent. Leaders must be of one mind. So we're not taking the prejudicial side of favoritism. If there is one team member that needs to be asked to leave, the same applies to everyone who is not functioning in the particular role. Be discriminating. All the facts do not need to be divulged to those whose interest is slander or gossip. So choose your words cautiously and look out for the future ministry of the person you remove. So that is not the end of the person's life. It may be an opportunity for the person to reflect upon his or her life and to um, reignite a new desire for something else. And surprisingly, they can still be very fruitful and productive in another organization or another team. We have seen that happen in so many instances. A person may seem to be failing with a particular company, organization, or particular church, even, and they have decided that they're not, you know, functioning well in this particular place, and they have left or they were asked to leave, and that they're doing much better than where they were. So help the person find their next step. So the goal is here is not to um, destroy any person, but make recommendations, be willing to advocate for the person in spite of the unwillingness or the incompetencies in a particular field. So we anticipate that we'll have problems in teams.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we're still on Earth. We're still vulnerable to all the weaknesses and plagues.
Mm-hmm.
So let your team know that you anticipate these difficulties when you make such decisions. So those are critical ways, important ways. Um, if we and when we do have to remove team members, so it doesn't have to be like we discussed. You don't have to be a volcano, like we discussed last week, I
Yes,
believe.
yes.
Yeah, you're coming and just brush over everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not a bulldozer. You're just shoving down the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Or
but
steamroller.
yes, but you're
Mm-hmm.
there to encourage and to help them overcome some of the obstacles that they may have confronted in their
Mm-hmm.
present situation. So it is done lovingly, it is done with respect for the person, and so that the person leaves with the sense that you have my back, as it were. You have my interest at heart, and they want you to prosper, and you want to do better in perhaps another field of work and different environment where you may flourish. And so that's the purpose of having to remove a team member from any particular organization or a particular situation. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that one of our challenges is really the tendency to procrastinate those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We find it difficult to make those tough
Of
calls or make
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the situation worsens, and what tends to happen is that this bad apple, as it were, in this particular situation spoils all the rest of the good ones. And people may be making complaints silently, not willing to lovingly confront, and the team just suffers as a result of it. We know that this person needs to go, and no one is willing to, as it were, take the bull by its horns, as it were.
Mhm.
And that's the difficult task of a good leader, um, to be able to make those calls, make those decisions, so that the entire team does not go under, but that the team morale is held and is moving forward, um, without those hindrances,
Mhm.
without those pitfalls that accompany team efforts and team building organizations.
Mhm.
So that's a critical role of a good leader.
And as you would have alluded to, that leader has to do what he has to do lovingly. As you would
Yes,
have shared with us, you have to be able to separate the person from the
yes,
issue and deal with the issue at hand. So as you see, the person leaves intact. And I think
yes,
that is, yeah,
yes.
that's very
That's
important. And it's a grace that a lot we have to learn, and then people themselves have to understand that although we're dealing with an issue that is related to you, it's not you. Of course it's you, but not you. So
right.
yeah, leaders have to be very tactful in handling and making the tough call. All right. So all of these though are in efforts to build our team, you know, vetting the team, seeing what needs to be adjusted and so forth. So all of that is, as I said, is in efforts to build our team. So could you take us through some good pointers in building a team?
Right. So characteristics of good team building. And there's actually a score. So as you listen, you may want to give yourself a score, perhaps a 1 to 10 score. Um, so, for example, team members have a high level of interdependence among themselves. So there is a sense where we need everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Each one needs one in your team, and no one is independent of the other person. So is that true of your team? Is that true of your organization? We recognize that we need one another in order to accomplish the goal and objectives of the team. The team leader has good people skills and is committed to a team approach. So we have improved on our people skills, in skills of communication, the skill of empathy, um, and how do we strengthen each other with those skills in order that the team would be improved as a whole body. Each team member is willing to contribute. So we don't have a team member who just sitting on the sidelines, as it were, and watching
Mm-hmm.
what other people is doing. This team member is is deliberately contributing his or her share to the workload of this team and this organization. So that is a good characteristic of a team. The team develops a relaxed climate for communication. So we are free to discuss our disagreements because every team surely would have its disagreements. But the team leader provides, through the team members, an atmosphere, climate that everyone can speak freely. Even they may disagree with some of the policies and practices of the organization. So that that is going to be critical. So people are not afraid to speak up their mind, as it were. Team members develop mutual trust. So there's a trusting relationship in this team that we are building. So as an organization, as a church, as a group of people, even as a government, as a business place, is there mutual trust among the membership of your organization? They are prepared to take risks. So every organization, there are times that we must step out, as it were, in faith and to take the risk. Risk takers have weighed some of the costs for it and they want to go forward. The team is clear about goals and establishes specific targets. So we are not just beating the air as an organization. We are not just doing routine stuff because that's what we do from 8 to 5 every day, but there's a particular goal that we're seeking to accomplish at the end of the day. Team members' roles are defined, so there is clarity and expectation in each member's role in the team. When that is unclear, we tend to overlap in other people's areas of responsibility and create confusion. So the idea here is not to compete, but to complete each other, right? So we're not competing here against one another in the team. We are completing one another to make the team a better team and a winning team. But those words, they have to be defined and clearly marked out and set out. They know how to evaluate mistakes without making personal attacks. So yes, this is the issue. These are the mistakes we want to address, but we are not making personal attacks on individuals. And then the team has the capacity to create new ideas. So in the time of change, um, we have to be creative, innovative. And those ideas come when we think and when you have a team of thinkers and each person on the team is reflecting upon how can we improve this organization that we are part of? How can we um, escalate the benefits of this organization? How can we be more productive? And how we can be more influential? And how can we attract people to this organization? And if each member of the team is doing his or her part, when we pull those ideas together, it's amazing what can happen as a cumulative result. The benefits will be exponential. The team has the capacity to create new ideas. So that's why whether your team meets on a monthly basis or quarterly basis, it has to be a time not just for reporting minutes of the meeting and stats and figures, but a part of a good chunk of the time of your getting together is to have the thinkers, everyone thinking through how can we become more creative, how we can become better in what we're doing, what skills we need to improve on, what personal development path are we on, so that we are always on a growth spurt on the path to personal improvement and personal development.
Yeah, it's so imperative to have the right people on the team, and the leader has to walk with wisdom and the grace of God. Several years ago, I was a part of a book launching, and it was, while preparing for the actual book launch, it was so encouraging to see, each person that was taking part in the launch, had a different skill set. And, everyone came and was doing his or her part, and the event came off so excellently and so smoothly. No one intimidated by anyone, but aware of what he or she has to do, and did so with so much excellence. It was a really, excellent book launch. And likewise, as individuals, we, as part of a team, we have to be conscious of our skill set, of course, and understand that what we do is not for our glory, it's for the Lord's glory. And you have to be a team coming together, one band, as we'd say, one band, one sound, and we do the Lord's work or do whatever it is we do as a team, because as we say, teamwork make the dream work. And it's not just a fancy topic or a fancy cliche, it's the truth. When you come together, it gets the job done. And we must not be intimidated by another's gift or skill set. As you said, we're not to compete, we're here to complete And those are two
Yes,
different words. It-
absolutely. Yes.
yes. All right. So, do you have any applications for
Of
assessments for
course.
today's session?
So there are four basic sections to this lesson, and we looked at them. We looked at the leader as the coach, as the overall team. We look at how do we recruit team members? How do you choose team members?
Mhm.
Um, how do you share the vision? And how you remove team members and how to do it gracefully. And then, of course, the last section, characteristics of good team building. Um, so there are always areas in our lives and in the life of a team
Mhm.
that we need to improve on. And then the application is what is one step you can take to enlist and empower your team. So as you think of your own organization that you're a part of, that you're a member of, that you're committed to, how can you bring one good idea to this team so that the team is empowered? So think about one thing you can do to enlist and empower your team as you reflect upon this over the next couple of days and go back to your team meetings and strengthen your team to become a more effective team that seeks to accomplish and goals and become very productive in what you want to accomplish.
So, ladies and gentlemen, for the past 50 minutes or so, we have been discussing under the topic, the leader as a coach, building an effective team. And we looked at the laws or indisputable laws of teamwork. We looked at recruiting and enlisting team members. We looked at choosing team members. We looked at sharing your vision with team members. We looked at removing and replacing team members, and that's part of the tough call, the tough part of leadership. And we looked at how to remove a team member and how to build your team and characteristics of good team building. If you're just joining, we're just about to pull on the curtains for today. So you can always go back to our YouTube page and review this information. And as we said, it's not just information. It's supposed to transform as we apply to our lives, transform our living, transform how we act among teams. And we encourage you to take heed to the information, take heed to the word, and we will see difference, as we impact the world around us. Any final words before we pull the curtains down,
Great. So
Reverend
we'll
John?
take the next few minutes
Mhm.
just to encourage our viewers and listeners that in addition to what we do here on a weekly basis, as you may have heard, I serve also as a leadership coach,
Mhm.
and that is an area that we all need help in, how we can become a more effective leader, how we can build more effective teams,
Mhm.
and you can get information about what um, I do through Leadership Plus through this radio program, radio station. They would have all of our contact and information. And if you are interested in a personal um, coaching or effective team leading session, feel free to contact them. They will get in touch with me and we can arrange a time just for personal coaching and personal leadership development. So just to um, let you become aware of that additional service that is provided as well. And just to mention, as we are preparing now for our graduation for the Grenada Institute for Theological Education this coming Saturday, we invite you to listen and to become aware of what's happening as we prepare for our grand graduation this coming Saturday. Do pray for us as we graduate a number of our students from varying disciplines through our theological and leadership development programs. You may want to consider becoming a student in our program study as well, and you can receive further information through the radio station Hope FM 103.1. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Yes, we thank you very much, Reverend John, again for this wonderful initiative. I'm sure that many of our listeners have been listening and transformed and are employing some of the, the pointers that are lifted here every Wednesday from 5 p.m. until 6. It's amazing how fast the time flies. We want to thank you again, all our listeners upon all the platforms, those of you in Radioland, listening on your way home from work. I hope you had a good day. For those of you who are listening on YouTube and those later on who may listen on Facebook, we say thank you for joining us. And we do look forward to seeing you or being here with you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Thank you again and enjoy the balance of your week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hope is rising. Tell everybody, hope is rising. Yo, this is Emerald Henry representing for Hope 103.1 FM. Kaboom.